What's going on, Workforce? Brian and Chris here, and today we're talking about some spicy topics over here, obviously on Final Fantasy XIV's Reddit discussion thread. Link will be in the description below. We hope you go check out the thread, weigh in with your own thoughts, because this can get rather spicy, and as social media has taught us, it can not necessarily maybe go as you've hoped or planned. But before we dive in, I do want to take a brief moment to say thank you guys so much for the letters. We actually have two here. I've actually read these in a video over on Ginger Prime. If you're curious, you can go check out that. I'll try to include a link in the description. Otherwise, just search my recent history, and I'm sure you'll find the video in question. Chris, how are things going, man? You've been crushing it on stream now that you're back. We're celebrating 5 years here at Work to Game. Say hi, and then we'll jump into the spicy topic.
Yeah, I'm having a blast, and we've been giving away codes and stuff as like I've achieved things in game, and as people have hit subscribe, and then we've been giving away 10,000 gil per subscription to get to a random sprout. Except for today, we're gonna have to roll today's money into tomorrow's giveaway because I messaged like 30 sprouts, and nobody wants the money, man. Nobody wants it.
We haven't found those sprouts, so guys, pay attention.
All right, so smash that like button if you like that voice. Smash that like button if you didn't like that voice. Confuse me either which way. But beyond that, though, Chris, like you've been working on leveling up as a part of the points system that you've been using to do the giveaways. Like, where are you in your leveling progress? Are you going to make it to Endwalker with all 80s? Like, how are you feeling about this plan right now?
Oh man, I don't know if I'd
commit to it in a video in August. Let's go.
I have no idea if I'd make it in all 80s. It is doable, but it's just a question of like, what does it take away from to get there? If I hadn't taken 2 weeks off, I was on pace where I needed to do 25 levels a week to have every single job in the game at 80 in time for the beginning of November. And so I have burned up that 2 weeks by taking 2 weeks vacation. So I would finish like November like 14th right now if I got 25 levels a week.
Going into Endwalker gas.
I'm at 20 levels for this week. So I think this week we'll kind of close it up a little bit, but it'll be tight. I think really the goal originally was like, let's clean up my armory chest.
Yeah.
So just getting everything to 50 would be a major achievement. And that's very easily doable. I got a bunch of jobs that are, basically my melees and physical ranged are behind. Everything else is above 50, I think. So
yeah.
Getting those up to at least kind of poetics gear where I can start having kind of those augmented sets that are just fed to me by poetics and get shared across a lot of jobs. And, from that point forward, like it's possible that depending on how you level, you just stay in augmented poetics gear for the 50 set, the 60 set, the 70 set, the 80, what soon will be the 80 set. The augmented tripliker set will be available for poetics at that point.
100%.
And you can get all the way into Endwalker without ever finding a drop again. I can just dump poetics into every time I need new gear.
Yes, that's exactly how we intended it. All right. Guys, this is obviously over here on Reddit. This is a spicy take in terms of the community. You can see here, like without even interacting with it, we're not necessarily in high points and not very heavily upvoted, but it looks like there's obviously some people who share this thought process. We're going to dive into it. I want to highlight one or two comments, and then we're going to kind of discuss it, especially about the state of the community, as we've just seen a huge, massive wave after wave after wave grow the base so much. And for me, in my perspective, it's been nothing but exciting and thrilling, but obviously there's going to be growing pains as we build up to Endwalker during this season, this kind of mid-season, pre-expansion. So starts in the title is the community's plastic positivity and constant patting itself on the back is honestly quite unsettling. I've played a lot of League, WoW, and various other multiplayer games. I quit League due to the community. I quit WoW because I don't like Shadowlands. I started playing 14 before WoW, but had a hard time getting into it. Didn't get that far to actually interact with anyone. But I came back after getting burnt out of WoW and got 4 classes to 50. A whole lot of running in dungeons, and I love the dungeons. But there is something pretty off-putting about this community, honestly. It feels like I have someone smiling at me with a knife in their hand, and that is what literally is why we're making this video, because I just burst out laughing. I just thought of a Tonberry. I don't have my Tonberry mug, but it's like, we used to be scholars. I don't know, we could heal you, but maybe a little rancor, a little stab. I don't know. Anyway, that's what really made me just like almost spit my coffee over my computer. Those horror movie tropes where the villain has a bloody knife and is slowly tilting their head with a massive grin on their face. Yeah, that's the vibe I get. I know it's because Square is happy in the big old banhammer, which makes it even weirder that the community is so keen on bragging about how great they are. I mean, they're only less toxic because they express their toxicity in other ways as to not get doinked in the with the sledgehammer. So this ends up making the community feel like a bunch of passive aggressive robots who are particularly vitriolic when they get a chance to be. Strange vibes. Chris, do you want to weigh in on what he said here, or do we want to jump into the comments first?
I mean, it's definitely a curated community, right? We definitely want people to keep their bad days at home and keep it out of the chats. And, you know, you go take that somewhere else. It's not welcome here. But like, I don't know, like part of it is true. And I don't know that that's the part the community would disagree with it. The community's like, yeah, we're proud of that. There's definitely like a toxic positivity that the community can get, where they're like, the story's so great that if you didn't do the story, I'm going to come delete your character. Like it is this like out of a favor to you. I care for you so deeply, Brian. I love you. I'm going to delete your character because you did it wrong.
What is it, Elvira from, or what was that from the Pinky and the Brain? Elmira or something like that, where she was like so like crushing the I love you so much, and that
I just want to just cuddle you. But I think overall the post is I mean, following this topic too far down the rabbit hole gets really heavy-handed really fast.
Yeah. So that's the perfect time for me to kind of jump into Skeletal Tome here. It says, I get that the great community, by the way, is the meme, because that's what we see. Like typically people who've come in, I think the recent example might be Quinn. We really didn't discuss that whole mess of a situation because it was like, it was so predictable that like that was going to be a story that it's like, all right, we just don't need to even address it. But essentially where people like hear that the community is so great, but then they cross this invisible line that nobody really set them up for. And it's like for people who are veterans, you know the line, you know how to dance on the line, you know how to kind of like, you want to sit here and get a little bit of, you know, like if you're going to play the troll game, you know exactly what the pressure points are to push on that's going to get the most vitriol response. But there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, like if you don't recognize that how like valued the community puts the story in, and you say, I'm here for the gameplay, I'm here for the raids, oh, this is great, I really didn't get into the story, all of a sudden there is going to be a section of the community that just struggles with that kind of critique because the story is so impactful. It's like saying, yeah, hey, yeah, Lord of the Rings, that's a book, right? Like, I don't know, it holds my coffee well. Like how could you do that to the Lord of the Rings? You know, it's like there's such emotion, there's such especially as we develop into becoming who we are. There's moments that have happened over the last 11 years. I became a dad. Like all these things have happened while playing Final Fantasy XIV. And while the story doesn't like impact my day to day, there are memories. It's just like you smell an orange and it can take you back to these moments. And I think that's one of the things that we see with the Sprout streamers, where it's like living through them takes you back to that moment of just pure excitement or sadness or frustration. But anyway, that's the context behind GGC BTW. But is it really that bad? The main sub has a bunch of annoying karma farming posts and low effort posts. And
that's true of all Reddit.
Oh, that's like all of this could be like, you could extrapolate and like remove the Final Fantasy XIV tag and all. And the way the community as a whole defends microtransactions sucks ass. But overall, it's a more positive community than any game, say Dota or League. Being unable to properly critique someone's play annoys the hell out of me sometimes. And I'd much rather see Square Enix weren't as draconian about it, but otherwise I feel that it's a pretty chill community where I can easily avoid the people I dislike who annoy me. I progressed or progged this tier on Party Finder and was amazed to see how chill and cool 99% of the people are. I think it could be improved, but don't get me wrong, it was definitely not the worst MMO community. And it just goes on. Like I really actually enjoyed reading this thread. You guys, if you're interested in just kind of diving more in deep, you should be sure to check out the subreddit for Final Fantasy XIV discussion. I think what I see from the original poster in this regard is like, I think a lot of maybe the frustration, yeah, you might have a bad interaction with game. Most of the bad interactions and stories I hear are actually outside the game on social media. What do you think, Chris?
I think a lot of the positivity in and around this game on social media or otherwise starts very, very, very like on point. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's this, you know, this serial killer that's trying to manipulate us. I think that it's legitimately like this Stepford Nirvana perfection that we enjoy, and it is this like hot fuzz top community that what ends up happening is once they've gotten the taste of how nice it is to be somewhere nice, they do feel very defensive of that. And like as a community, we can be very, very protective because we don't want to see that go away. It's one of the things that makes this game feel very unique versus other games that have an almost identical feature list. Comparing it to League of Legends, like MOBAs in general breed a lot more friction between players because if somebody else screws it up, it hurts you directly and it wastes your time directly. And there's nothing you can do about it. And it just makes your whole day worse. 14 really isn't like that. Like I ran a level 38 dungeon with a Marauder today. Worked out fine. Like, is that a good plan? No. Do we need to say anything? No, it's fine. Like it's a method. It'll get you there.
You just did a story that's connected with RNG. You rolled the dice, you got somebody who didn't have their stone, and you got paired up with them in content that you can clearly clear without it. Now imagine if that was tied into some savage, like, we are going to party finder this, and then somebody comes along and says, yeah, I know this, and then they get in, they're like, wait, what do half these skills do? You're like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
and it used up some consumables that I now have to go farm up again before I'm allowed for another attempt. And I needed that attempt to be successful, or I don't get to progress towards this other goal this day.
Yeah.
And these goals are bound by daily and weekly lockouts. And so if I don't hit them, I'm actually losing progression. And so then I log in to play with you this weekend and you're like, hey, did you not finish your stuff? And it's like, no, I didn't finish my stuff because these people don't have their freaking job stones.
Yeah.
And then it becomes filled with this anger. But 14 doesn't really have that. Like, it didn't matter. We still got the clear. It didn't matter at all. Like, I don't know if you can go clear like current end-game content. Like, if you bring only jobs their classes,
oh my gosh,
can you clear E1 normal?
What would that look like?
With,
like Fido is
no
actually,
job stones.
Yeah, Fido in chat's literally saying, imagine a group
Thaumaturge,
doing
Marauder,
just all,
two conjurers, paraconjurers. Like, I don't know if it works out, but the fact that we think it might, like, it means it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There are people running things with straight DPS. There are people running things with straight tanks. And like, some people take that as, oh, this game is not challenging. No, there's stuff that'll punish you into the ground for getting it wrong, but it is not the majority of the content. And so what that means is, because that is such an isolated thing, you're going into that with set people. You're not going into that with complete strangers unless you already know that person used as an example, I progged with Party Finder, because that is an extreme example. Not the majority of the population is not like, not only do I want to do Savage, I want to progress Savage with complete strangers who, as we learn at the end of the night, they reset and I get a new set of strangers next week.
Oh my gosh. It's like that, how this kind of just went out into that whole like jobstone thing, just had my imagination just popping off. Like, yeah,
it's a good thing, as opposed to like going into a MOBA and being like, what if people didn't know what their buy order was for things? You'd be like, whoa, like, it's not like, that'd be so fun. Like, we should go in and play without a buy order. Like, no, like, we shouldn't have a build. Let's not even what is a jungler? I'd like to play with only people who don't even know what a jungler is. Let's all agree what lane we're going to run. Yeah. I'll write my lane down, and we all write our lanes down, and then we stick to that lane no matter what, even if it means that nobody runs bottom. That'd be so funny. Like, no, nobody will do that in a MOBA. But in 14, you can go check the Twitch directory, and people are like, check out this thing we're doing. We're going to go try to prog an ultimate with only tanks.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa. The I guess that like kind of the thing that in my mind that this evolves, because MOBAs came up, some of the examples the original poster referenced is that which is kind of has a lot of heavy into PvP, and Final Fantasy XIV being reviewably weaker in that area, in that regards, like when compared to, games that have a more fleshed out, PvP environment in that regards.
Or only PvP, like, you don't play MOBAs PvE.
Well, yeah, I don't play MOBAs.
It's intrinsically. Right. It's very base level.
Yeah.
It's like a first person shooter. Like, there might be a campaign mode in some of these games, but like, they exist for multiplayer. Right.
But what it is in regards that an MMO it has all of these elements. It's a game that has a way of catering to a wider audience than just a MOBA, which is just clearly that. And so my point being is that one of the things that the community has built up as a form of its strength due to its generally considered weaker PvP. I know that there's a PvP community, and I want that side to grow because I like PvP, but I have found myself, as time has gone on, less and less engaged in PvP, and I'm hopeful for Endwalker's PvP. But generally, when you and I sit down and make a PvP focused discussion or video, we know that like there's just not a bigger interest in that right now. It means that the community itself needs to be cultivated. Is that a reason why some of the game in and of itself feels like it's, you know, maybe not as aggressive, not as, confrontational?
I think if it was any one thing, we would just protect that thing. So like Asmongold said that he thinks that this kind of narrative element of forgiveness teaches us that we can forgive each other. And you're saying because there's not this conflict-based content being the primary content for the majority of the community, that helps avoid the primary focus of the community being conflict-based. And like we could, in this post, it's because, there's a ban hammer. That's why there's not conflict in the community. I think these things all have an effect. But if we knew it was just one thing, we would protect that one thing, right? If we knew it was just PvP, people would be calling for PvP to be removed from the game.
Right. PvP is a problem, guys. Like
if we knew it was that simple, right? If we knew it was just narrative based, then like people would be even more upset at story skips.
Okay.
But they're upset at story skips not because of toxicity, but because they're like, well, then they don't know. They don't know. And so and it's important that they know. Well, what if they don't want to freaking know? Well, they got to know. They got to know. And that's why Square Enix, the people who wrote the freaking story, made official skips on the store. Because Square Enix just didn't know that skips would make them skip, and then they wouldn't know.
Well, there's also another skip. It's called the escape key. It's free.
That's the one I used all the way through ARR, Heaven's Word, Stormblood. It worked great. I mean, and then there's a handful of times where it kind of breaks down on you, and there's a couple of non-skippable cutscenes. Those are really stark. And people are like, well, these are really important. If I skipped everything else, they're important. I will tell you they're not. Like, if you have no context, none of the unskippable cutscenes are suddenly and magically important because they don't give any context. So like Praetorium, if you skipped everything up to that point, means nothing. So now I'm enjoying story now, but like that is not because, I discovered the light and now I want to go back in time and slap my old self and anybody who tries to play the way I played. No. It's still a very valid way to get into this game.
Absolutely. Anyway, that is essentially the question and the discussion, guys. Sound off. Let us know what you think, especially as it relates to the 14 community. Are we plastically positive and ready to stab you with a smile, like right in the chest? I don't necessarily believe so, but again, I can only control myself. I
understand why they feel that way. I just think that it might be on the far edge of what's actually happening.
I think it has to be married with social media. Like that's the only kind of connection that I have. Like if you're like just logging in and playing the game, and it's like maybe you talk to somebody, maybe someone's a jerk to you. But I don't like whenever I'm playing the game, and the world disappears and you're kind of just like in the world and you're just hanging out with everybody and having a good time. It's like, all right, all that fake drama kind of just falls off to the side. So that's just my take. Is like, this felt like it's based off of, I had this post over on the main Reddit and it got downvoted to hell. And what is wrong? Like it was a great idea. I just wanted a fifth boss in the raid. I just wanted a fifth boss. And all of a sudden you're getting all kinds of hate, man.
There can't be 5 because then there wouldn't be 4. And they gave us 4 and the game is perfect.
Anyway, guys, that's the discussion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, favorite, subscribe, share, and clip. You have to currently, I think, tweet us. If you do clip anything, tweet at us or send it over on Discord, because there's no way for YouTube to let us know.
Clips aren't for sharing, Brian. Yeah. They're for archiving.
I don't know. Like, I don't see them. Like, I can't see them if you make them on. Maybe at some point YouTube's gonna be like, oh, maybe the creator wants to see what people thought.
They're just for gotcha moments. Just gotcha. Be thrown in our face later.
Gotcha. Yeah. Here's all the time Chris said, the story sucks, and it's like clipped together and edited. I skipped. Escape key. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Chris, why don't you take us out?
Guys, thank you again for 5 years. We're celebrating it all week long. We really do appreciate it. And we think it's an absolutely wonderful community to be a part of. And thank you guys for joining us on this journey. For Chris and Brian, you guys have a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.
Take care.